Hey everyone, my name is McKenna, also known as Sylphic Studios, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For the last couple of weeks, I've been insanely busy working on 4 different commission projects, and I'm really excited to be back to show you what I've been cooking. Each commission will get their own video, but for this one in particular, I'll be showing you how I made my Taylor Swift custom doll in her Reputation Eras Tour bodysuit. That was definitely a mouthful. Now, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a Swiftie, but when I received a commission request to make her for the iconic Oscar Gracie, I just had to make her. Now, if you don't know who Oscar is, he is the co-host on the Just Trish podcast with Trisha Paytas, and he's just an all-around icon, so I'm really excited to be making this doll for him. I've previously made him 2 other dolls, both my Chapel Roan and Olivia Rodrigo Guts Tour dolls, so I'm really excited to be making him a 3rd doll for his collection. We may or may not have a 4th doll in the works as well, so if you guys are curious, you'll have to stick around to see that one. But that's enough talking, let's get into the doll customization, starting with prepping. So to make this custom as accurate as possible, I decided to combine 2 different base dolls. I chose to use G3 Cleo Sculpt for her head and then Spectra for her body. Ideally, I wanted to use Cleo as the full base doll, but unfortunately her sculpted bandages were on the open side of her bodysuit, so I had to make some necessary adjustments. Luckily, Cleo and Spectra have the same exact curvy body type, so switching her body was an easy fix. So as always, first things first, to start off the process, I chopped off all of Cleo's old hair. And since her hair is a nice blue saran, I did decide to keep it for a potential future custom, so to do that I just put it into a hair tie to make it more manageable to keep later. After I put her hair up, I just went at her scalp with my tiny pair of scissors until all of her hair was cut off. I like to start near the front of the hairline and work my way all the way around and into the middle. Once the majority of the hair is cut, I like to go in with a fan brush just to clean off all the excess so we can go in for round 2 to shorten up the stubble as short as we possibly can. I personally find that the shorter the stubble is, the easier it is to pull out of her head later. Now this is what she was looking like once all of her hair was cut, and now it's time to behead her. So to start the beheading process, I heated up some water in my kettle off camera, poured it in my mug, and now I am just letting her sit in it for a minute or 2 to soften up her head. I always use a towel to help pull off my doll head so I don't accidentally burn myself, so if you do this, please make sure that you use a towel to protect your hand. Now after her head was removed, it's time to go in with my needle nose pliers to get all of her old hair out. This step is a lot easier if you do it right after you behead the doll because the head is still warm from the water and it just makes the plugs a lot easier to remove. And to remove all her hair, I'm just scraping the crap out of the inside of her head with my pliers until everything is gone. Once all the stubble was removed, I'm just taking those same pliers and individually removing every single plug of hair. I also like to periodically shake the head around a little bit to get some of those pesky hairs out because some of them just don't want to come out sometimes. So now that she's finally bald, it's time to prep her for her reroot. To color match her scalp, I just mixed together a cream color and some browns to get this nice blonde color, and then I painted over her existing paint up to her hairline. Now this is a really important step for me. I'm not sure if other doll artists have the same issue, but I always make sure that I use satin finish acrylic paint when I am painting scalps because every time I use matte, it just flakes off every time that I'm rerooting, and we definitely don't want that, so I'm making sure I'm using a satin finish. I did another coat or 2 off camera, and now it's time to get into her reroot. So for this custom, the color of nylon that I chose was Blonde Splendor from Shimmerlocks. I honestly had a pretty difficult time choosing a blonde shade for this doll because in every picture of Taylor that I saw, her hair looks like a different shade of blonde, but her hair does seem to kind of have this dirty blonde undertone, so I felt like this shade from Shimmerlocks was perfect. I won't be going into too much rerooting detail in this video because I will be making a rerooting tutorial soon, so look out for that. But to speedrun my process a little bit, I just take my hank of hair, pull a little strand, make sure it's tight around my finger and that it's even, and then I just stab it into the head like that. I did want to show you guys though how I reroot my part lines because I do get a lot of questions about this. So basically I just take a strand of hair, plop it into the hole like normal, and then I plop a second strand of hair in the same hole, just going the other direction, so you have a part line. This should fill in all of that empty space, but if you feel like there's still some space, you can always plug in another strand or 2, just whatever you feel like looks best. And that's what your part line should look like if you do 2 strands in each hole. I did go ahead and finish her reroot off camera, and then I put it into a ponytail just to make it more manageable, so now it's time to actually seal her hair in there. To do this, I just put in a comical amount of Fabri-Tac glue, like a lot more than you think you'll need, just to make sure that all of the hair is secure in there, and then I take a Q-tip and just make sure all the glue is around every single plug. I let that dry overnight, and now it's time to repaint her face and her body. If you're curious on how I do my body repaints, I already have a full-length video on how I do that, so if you're interested, I highly recommend checking that out. I will have it linked in the description or on the screen here for you. But for this custom in particular, I used watered down satin acrylic paint in the color Peach from Apple Barrel to match Taylor's skin tone. This was actually my first time using Spectra's body as a base, so I was a little bit worried about how the color would match on her white limbs versus her clear limbs, but it actually wasn't that big of a deal. The color is just the teensiest bit lighter on her clear limbs, but you honestly can't even tell, probably unless I told you, so I highly recommend using Spectra's body as a base if you guys choose to make a custom in the future. Now this is what she looked like after one coat of paint. Just trust the process, guys. I finished up her body off camera, so after a lot of paint coats, she looked like this. And now it's time for the most exciting part, which is her face up. So in order to keep her hair safe from all of the spray sealant that I'll be using, I took a piece of scrap fabric and used pins to secure it all the way around her hairline. I also used mini safety pins to secure the rest of her hair. After all of her hair was secured, I took my 100% acetone nail polish remover on some Q-tips and removed all of her factory paint. This part is always so satisfying for me. I just love seeing the dolls sculpt underneath all of their facial features. This is what she looked like when she had no more face. I absolutely love Cleo's sculpt. It was actually Oscar's idea to use Cleo for this doll, and I think that it was such a perfect idea. Like, she looks like Taylor. Like, that is Taylor. And then just using the same technique as I did for her body, I am just repainting her face. I finished her face repaint off camera as well, and then now I'm taking my ancient Lisa Frigg eyeshadow palette and using it to body blush and then blush her face as well. This was actually the first time that I used eyeshadow instead of chalk pastels for blushing, and I honestly like it a lot more. I feel that sometimes chalk pastels don't give the right opacity that I'm looking for, and eyeshadows really do, so I will definitely be using this eyeshadow palette in the future. Once all of her blushing was done, I took her outside and sealed her with a nice layer of MSC, and now it's time to actually work on sketching her face. Now, per usual, I don't have too much footage of me doing her face up because my head is always in the way. Like, as you can see right here, my face is covering like half of the frame. So usable clips are really few and far in between, but I will try to get better, I promise you guys. Repaints and face ups are like my favorite part of the doll customization process, so I really want to show you how I do it. So mark my words, I promise I will find a better angle. As you can see, I like to work on both sides of the face at the exact same time to make sure that they're both like mirrored to each other. I am definitely not the best with symmetry, but I feel like for me personally, if I work on them both at the same time, the odds of them being more even are just higher. But I know that some people like to do one entire side first and then mirror it on the other, like right after the other, so it just depends on what your preference is. But I personally like to get one step done, like the eyeliner on one eye, and then go in and do the eyeliner on the other eye, just to make sure that everything looks pretty symmetrical. This was what she looked like with her eyeliner and her eyeshadow done. I think that she looks so gorgeous. I really tried with this one to capture Taylor's iconic eyeliner wing, so I really hope that I did that justice. I usually do really bold eyeliner in top lashes, but for this one I just left the top lashes off to let that wing shine, and I think that she looks so pretty. And I'm honestly so happy with this doll and how this face up turned out. Like, that is Taylor Swift. Like, Oscar is for real a genius. Like, Cleo's sculpt, chef's kiss for Taylor, I feel like. So as you can see, I'm just adding some definition into the whites of her eyes and her irises just to make them pop some more. And then I'm going in with some black chalk pastel and forming her pupils. I like to use chalk pastel instead of acrylic paint for my eyes. That's just the preferred look that I like. And then I added her catch lights off camera. So this was her finished face up. And guys, I am so obsessed with her. Like, that, again, that is Taylor Swift. And as a finishing touch to her face up, as always, I added 3 layers of glossy varnish to her irises and her lips. So now we are sitting Taylor aside and we are starting to work on her bodysuit. So as we all probably know, I am not a very confident seamstress. I'm not very confident in my sewing abilities, so this outfit was very, very challenging for me to make, but in the end, I'm very proud of how it turned out. So first things first, I patterned out the bodysuit by just tracing over the body on a piece of cardstock and then making the necessary alterations like seam allowances and all of that stuff. And then for her sleeve, I just measured out her arm and then kind of eyeballed the pattern for it. And then once those were done and all cut out, I cut out my pieces of fabric. I used this really nice stretch like yoga fabric because I really wanted her bodysuit to be skin tight and stretchy. So I used this fabric from a thrifted pair of yoga pants, and I felt like it worked out really well. So once I cut out my patterns, I'm just hemming all of these sides that I needed to hem, like the neckline, the leg hole, the ankle, the wrist, all of that stuff. And then I attached her sleeve and then sewed together the shoulders. So once that is done, I'm just going to be hand stitching the entire bodysuit together. And I'm sewing it together, right sides together, so that we can flip it out later and press the seams. And then once that was done, this is what the bodysuit looked like. I did cut a slit in the back so I could put it on her and also attach Velcro later on. So this is what it looked like once it was finally on the doll, and it looks so good. I'm really proud of how this turned out. So once the base of the bodysuit was done, it was time for probably the most anticipated part of the process, and that was rhinestoning. For the rhinestones, I used two different sizes for the details at least. So for the red snakes, I used like a kind of a bigger gem, but still really tiny. And then for the silver gems for the outlines, I used an even tinier gem so we can get it as accurate as possible. And I did all of the red snakes off camera just because I needed to look at so many close-up pictures of her on my phone. Like, I needed to do my research to find all these reference pictures. Her entire bodysuit, front and back, top to bottom, is rhinestoned, even the parts that you can't really see in the back, and it is accurate to the original bodysuit, which I had a lot of fun replicating. Granted, it did take forever, but this is the type of detail work that I love. I love just tiny, tedious detail work, even if it does take 50 years. It's so fun, and the reward is so rewarding for me. This is as much as I was able to record of the silver because it was taking forever, so I finished it off camera, and this is what it was looking like. At this point, I was honestly starting to get really excited for the final product because I could just see it forming. Like, all those rhinestones are so pretty. But you thought we were done? Absolutely not, because we need to fill in all of that black empty space with even tinier rhinestones. So I started in the tiniest sections of this first just to test out what technique I wanted to do. So basically, I just took a lot of glue, put it down in a bigger area, and then manually put down my stones. For her shoes, I did end up sprinkling it over the big area, and it worked a lot quicker, and that was definitely the right choice. But for her entire bodysuit, basically every single rhinestone was manually placed. And speaking of her shoes, it is time to paint and rhinestone those as well. For her shoe base, I felt that Core Refresh Draculaura's boots were perfect for this. Like, they're just the perfect performance type of boot, so I used these and painted them fully black. And as always, I used watered down acrylic paint for this to avoid any streaks. Once they were all painted, I sealed them with watered down Mod Podge, and I used matte for the base of the shoe and then glossy for the main part of the shoe so that the shoes had multiple textures going on. After those were dry, I put them on the doll, and then it was time to rhinestone those as well. This obviously didn't take as long as the bodysuit because it's not as much surface area, but it also didn't take as long because I used my brain and I just sprinkled the gems on there like a smart person would have done 50 years ago. But you know what? It's okay. All that work was totally worth it. I decided near the end of the process to give her a matching microphone, so I made that off camera, and with that, she is finally complete. I had such a fun time working on this custom, and she's honestly one of my favorite dolls that I've ever made to date at this point. And I am just so grateful that I got the opportunity to make this amazing doll for such an icon. Oscar, I love you so much. Thank you for trusting me to make you dolls. Like, that's never not gonna be crazy to me, so seriously, thank you so much. And I can't wait to show you guys the other doll that I'm making for him, as well as the other 2 commissioned dolls that I have recently finished as well. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video, and don't forget to leave a like if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to see more doll content from me in the future. And another huge thanks to my patrons over on my Patreon, Pumpkin Tushy, Samuel, and Morgan. Your support means the absolute world to me, and if you're interested in more behind-the-scenes content and extra goodies, please make sure to check out my Patreon in the description below. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I can't wait to talk to you in the next one. Bye guys!